Welcome to StockMarketFunding.com. Happy Labor Day, 9/3/2012. Topic and the trade management Nasdaq 100 index put options. No more to say about it. What I will feature is the monthly September 27.75 put that had a huge trading range of $58 down. That's deflated. I'm also going to show the weekly, which you can see exactly when I show the weekly compared to the September one. You're going to have exactly the weekly so that you can see both sides of the market. So first of all, I'm going to show you the September one, which is right here, and then I'm going to show you the weekly. I will show the weekly as far as the range goes of $25 to $16.70. They closed at $34.30 on Friday. They were open on Thursday. I will show you that contract so that you can see it clearly. Weekly, September 12th, 27.75 put. Their weekly contract. You can see clearly here where the high was $34.30, but then on Friday, the last trading day of the month, they got marked down to a low of $16.70 right here. This is this lower price right here. And this is that higher price I just talked about. That means that we're going into September 3rd with a deflated put contract. Let us not forget that this Nasdaq 100 right here closes at 2772.24. That's 1850 to the upside that it had in its volatility trade on closing out 8/31 of 2012. Now, when we go back and we take a look at the 27.75 here, where my pointer is that these are marked down. And if we have a resistance level that's going to be working in the Nasdaq 100, and I can present to my MMTs here and now, this weekly resistance level that we've had with the overall bull trend again. And each one of these pullbacks that we have had, each one of the weekly distributions over here early in the cycle on the weekly here, is that we regained right away, but most importantly is we consolidated and we broke right back up to these highs again, and we have a weekly distribution in the calendar week of the last calendar week trading day of August right here. I would also like to present to my MMTs that whenever markets get exhausted at price resistances, is that in the short term they get overbought. But I have to show you another stock that everyone is familiar with, and it's called Apple Computer. So if you're going to buy put options or call options using the Nasdaq 100, that's a Nasdaq 100 index of the Nasdaq composite, you have to know that the calls work good on it, just the opposite of the put side now, when Apple is breaking higher. When Apple sells down, it's a very big weighting of this Nasdaq 100. You can see here that they both have a distribution week. So when Apple sells down, Nasdaq 100 goes down, and we have a put ratio trade from certain wholesale levels. As long as this name continues to take distribution, we will have the right side of the trade. But if Apple hits support and wants to bounce, then this put option right here is only going to have a range, and it's not going to go up in value. This is a Nasdaq 100, but the put options, I'm telling you what's going to happen. The put, see, Apple has to sell down, and Nasdaq 100 will sell down. But the put options, these put options here, when Apple is selling down, that means that this Nasdaq 100 loses value over here and trades down to lower support levels here. So there are different support levels that we look at on the Nasdaq 100 component, which is individually separate, but we can see where this Nasdaq 100 weekly component is right now relative to a September 27.75 put and the 27.75 put weekly 9.7. That's 9.7, and this is monthly. They both trade quite differently, as the MMTs have discovered in their market making capabilities based on what would drive markets. Remember, things get overbought, but if you're going to be trading an index option, you better know which way that Apple trade is going to go. And see, so what I'm saying is that these put contracts right here are extremely deflated. And if we were to break support level, let's say we trade down here now. We trade down here on this weekly level here, MMT, and I'm going to show you. Right here, my friend. Let's say we come down to 27.23 or 27.25 to the low end of the weekly bar. We're going to be watching that area right there because this is going to be very important. 27.50, you got a little pit stop, and you'd already tested that. And what is that? That's half of this weekly bar right here, MMT. Now, when this side is working, them calls are working. Just the opposite. But I can tell you that if Apple sells off, it's a good time to get wholesale in these puts because I can show you where the monthly put has already made a big move. In fact, we called it, it went from $34 and some change all the way up to 58. So it made that move already one time. And then they closed at 52.50 and they took that same move right back down to 36.75 on Friday, 8/31 of August 2012. So we're going into the new trading month at the current level that these are closing down at 41. If the Nasdaq 100 has a reversal, an Apple reversal, then that means that these go back higher to this value and this value over here. And the monthly will trade quite different in the premium dollar price premium ratio as far as the entries. The trade management and entries here in the 9.7 27.75 put, which is a weekly, it's much more scandalous. I've already showed the chart on that. And we can see here is this monthly one that I'm talking about right here, the 27.75 922. That's right here in the video. See how it says it? So basically what I want you to see is that there are going to be ranges and that these ranges are in a deflated price area so they can get lower. If we could steal these down here, if we were to go up and the Nasdaq 100 were to go back up and challenge that 52-week high, we might be able to steal this contract right here for right around 25.5 should we get that. And they would drop that lower. That means that this one over here, the weekly one, would really get the premium taken out. That's based on what? That's based on this Nasdaq 100 weekly chart. I'm going to use a weekly. You see this high right here? That's a previous week's high. That's the first distribution we had in a very light dog days of August calendar 2012 trading. 9-3 starts tomorrow. You got Draghi coming out on the 6th. You got all kinds of headlines. You had Ben Bernanke that gave that market that boost. And September normally isn't the greatest month for equities. As we said, we only really care about the overbought process and where the high frequency trading models are and how they're being used. So basically what I'm going to tell people is if we come back up here and test that high, that could take these contracts down, MMTs, and we'd start looking at these things right around $7.70 during a weekly cycle. Should we break up and test those highs, they would strip that premium out. That means that the lower end of this market right here, right now, that's a 27.75 put, that's a monthly. It trades different. They don't take nearly as much dollar premium out as they do on the weekly. We specialize in both based on support and resistances and based on overbought processes, and there are many other things that we factor in as well. So this is going to be the trade that we're going to be looking for in September. If they want to continue to rally up and test the highs, they'll bring these prices even down and we make more money. What we would do is we would go right back over here. We would take a look at the Nasdaq calls. There's a 27.75 weekly call that we would look at doing, even though they're inflated, and I can show the value of it, and I will show the value of it. The value is right here on this 27.75, and this is going to be a weekly call. Let's see if there's any data on it. Here it is. This is what the weekly call looks like. Let's make sure that we have the right strike price in there. Hold on. Let's make sure September 7th, and this is the call side of the market, and that's this call side. You can see it had a trade down here. $14 was look at, they've taken from 21.88 down to 14, but look at, then they mark it right back up from a closing price of 14.80, and you get the highs out of there again. And look at, they marked it down to $15, and that's the call. So what I'm going to say, MMT, is that if the Nasdaq Composite does want to break back up and test that 2800 and work its way up to 2820, let's say 28 and a quarter, somewhere, or 2830, right up in here, to make another calendar September trading week high. It's going to, remember, tomorrow will be Tuesday. Today is 9/3/2012, and this index makes the biggest money. When you have 10 contracts and you lever up 20 points on them, that's what they do. They mark them down, but they mark them up. And that's the, and we're going to be watching this call, because if we trade up, we would buy the dip over here on the call side of the market. That's at 27.75 weekly. Okay? So basically, what we would do if they were to gap the market down, then we would mark these down and we'd start them around 580, 780, somewhere in there, because they would mark the value down in the call and they would mark the value up in the weekly put because it's already deflated. We'll see how they open the bell, and with everyone coming back off of vacation, we're very excited about this Nasdaq 27.75 put and Nasdaq 7 weekly at various price levels based on markets either selling down, based on, here is the, once again, the 27.75 put. It's deflated. They were up here in the price range. You can clearly see the price right up here. $58 right back down here. So basically they traded up. And based on price volatility coming in September and forward looking, you buy the bottom and you sell at the top, but you have to be a seller in this volatility that we have, and this is at 27.75 put. That's the monthly expiration. Look at the premium they took right back down. So once again, we'll be watching the call side as well. That's a weekly 27.75 call, or a daily, with the weekly chart involved right here in the Nasdaq. With Apple Computer has to work. Here's that 27.75 again. Here's that weekly put chart. Most people never seen one, but look at here. There's a trade back up here. They mark these things down. They mark them down lower, and the market's reversed. There's a nice trade in here on 10 contracts. You're darn right. And once again, I'm going to go back to the Nasdaq 100 chart right here, and I'm going to say one thing. If we sell down here to that lower wick right here on this weekly, and we break that weekly half bar in the month of September, does it have to happen tomorrow? No. September could trade up a little bit, but the higher that we go, the more short-term overbought. I am saying that price volatility, both to the upside and volatility to the downside, is going to increase in September. And it will. That means that the markets will be more equally weighted in price directional movements, so that both the long debit is traded and there is a reversal short debit that is traded, and you combine the two together and you come out with a very profitable scenario. So basically, MMTs, this is the focus for the calendar month of September as to what this Nasdaq 100 is going to do. And if Apple continues to sell down, well, then that's going to support our trade as we know it today. And that's what we would be looking for. We would be looking for this big name right here. If Apple Computer sells down, then Nasdaq 100 is, you know, has a huge weighting in this Apple Computer. And Apple Computer is Apple Computer. And Apple Computer is 665 right now. So once again, I'm just going to say, should things go our way, and Apple Computer, I already showed you in the video, will be monitoring Apple support levels relative to this put side of the market. Okay? And we're going to be monitoring lots of things about Apple Computer. And relative to the 27.75 put, 922, I'm going to cap it 9.7. weekly 27.75 put based on all of the ingredients that we've talked about, breaking higher highs and breaking lower lows, where the wholesale prices are versus the retail prices, and exactly what the high frequency model may or may not do starting on September 4, 2012. This will be a fat trade intraday. There is a value here. There is also a value on the call side as well. So we won't forget. But Apple Computer, if Apple Computer sells down, that supports the 27.75 put, and it supports the weekly 27.75 put. If this goes up to the highs and rolls over and makes these kind of ranges from the top down reversal, then that means that Nasdaq 100 will be going down intraday, and that raises the values here.